The biggest crisis in this hemisphere right now is Venezuela. It's hemorrhaging, it's already hemorrhaged 2.5, 3 million, even more, according to some estimates, refugees. You've got political repression as severe as we've seen. The National Assembly essentially has been bypassed, new constitutions being written, people are starving, the healthcare system's broken down. It's a failed state, or failing state. If this were taking place anywhere else in the world, we'd be having something of a big debate, and there'd be all sorts of calls to action. I'm struck by how deafening the silence is, relatively. So what's your sense? First of all, I'd be curious what Canada's doing, and what's your sense about what else needs to be done? Because clearly whatever's being done isn't enough.
Well, I mean, certainly from the Canadian perspective, the silence is not deafening. Venezuela is one of our foreign policy priorities. There's a group of countries in our hemisphere called the Lima Group, which Canada is a member of. We've hosted a Lima Group meeting in Canada, and we'll plan to host one again soon. And this is the countries in the hemisphere. The U.S. is not a part of the Lima Group, although the Lima Group works closely with the U.S. And it's a group of countries in the hemisphere who are really worried about Venezuela. And I do want to emphasize one aspect of what Richard has said, which is the migration issue. We've all seen the way in which the tragedy in Syria became a truly international tragedy when you had the refugees leaving. And we saw a destabilizing effect very much more broadly. And I think when we think about Venezuela, we need to start really thinking about the impact on Colombia, potentially the impact on Brazil. There are, as Richard said, a lot of people who are fleeing Venezuela. And these people, in addition to being poor and hungry, many of them are really sick and have illnesses which we thought had been eradicated. So I think the first thing we need to really be thinking about is understanding that the migration crisis coming out of Venezuela is not just a local problem. It has to be a problem for our hemisphere and really a global problem. And Canada very much sees it that way. We raised it at the G7, at the G7 foreign ministers, and we're very active with the Lima Group. I think that Canada has imposed targeted sanctions on Venezuela. I think we do need to do that. I think the Venezuelan leadership needs to know that actions have consequences. And I think all of us need to continue to let the people of Venezuela know that they have our support, and not to be too gloomy, but I would say we need to be looking very closely also at what's happening in Nicaragua, where I think things are reaching quite a dangerous state as well.